Yeah, community health is a huge, and I know you're right, smack down, dab in the middle of community health. One of the things that
Mhm.
I know that we were working on, and we've been really successful, and I think this is really attributed to not only your ideas, but also the impact Ulysses, as far as a coalition, was that prescription misuse and abuse. And I know that we've been successful. Tyson Mullen, who owns the local Grant County Drug, has said we've been almost too successful in that we've been filling up his drug take back container several times more, many more times than he's ever expected. So, hey, do you have any tips when you're talking about prescription misuse abuse? Do you have any tips that maybe that we need to pay attention to, or that you might be able to offer to those who are watching that now that we're on YouTube and Facebook?
I do, Troy. I worked at Grant County Drug when I was in high school, so
Mm,
I learned a lot of different things there. I've also worked in long-term care, and I know that, people, they have a tendency, if they've got health problems, they'll get another health problems, and they get a lot of medications.
yeah, that's
And
good.
it is amazing how many medications one person will have. And I have a nurse that is a dear friend of mine, and she was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Mm,
And after she got home from, her original surgery and everything, and we had all of her medications out, and she looked at me and she goes, I understand why people mess up their medications,
yeah,
because
wow.
there is so much, and it's hard, to remember, did I take that one? Did I not take that one? And so it was really interesting to be on the other side of that and
Mm,
see, what people do go through. And so I encourage people to use the organizers to set up their medications. I think that is something that's very helpful. Making sure when you get your medications from the pharmacy, you read the label. We're in such a hurry so much, we'll just grab it and, think it's probably right. And, it normally is, but it's always good to look and see, make sure your name's on there, make sure you know what the medication is, the dose, when you're supposed to take it, if you're supposed to take it with food or not. And, all those things do matter. And we don't always think about that. How can we get our, the best out of that medication that we can? Normally it's just the doctor says, take it, and we take it. And so,
yeah.
really paying attention to what you're taking, when you're taking it, how you're taking it, all those things are very important.
Yeah, so one thing I hear you saying is that, check and recheck and make sure
Hmm.
and ask questions. I mean, I know that especially at the health department or even the pharmacy, if you ask questions, I mean, you have some experts there and people there who will help you say, hey, this is what this medication does, this is how it should be taken. And if you're experiencing side effects, I know that not only you at the health department, but also at the pharmacy, they can say, hey, why don't you check with your doctor, or yeah, that's concerning. So no, that's
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
great advice.
Yes, yeah. And, we tend to get on the internet and look. And,
Yeah, that's good.
there's lots of good places to get information, but
Yeah.
there's also places that you don't get the right information. So with medications and stuff, I always encourage people to talk with their pharmacy, talk with their
Mhm.
doctor, if they have any questions or concerns. Um, Certainly, we ran into some instances, sometimes people will say, oh, I don't need that dose, maybe I'll just take half of it or something. And, I always encourage people, check with your doctor and make sure, because they may have a little more reason than what you know about. So
Right, right.
um, we do a lot of blood pressure checks here, and we'll ask people if they take medication, and, either they do or they don't. But we have a lot of people that say, well, I took it and then my blood pressure was good, so I stopped it. And so you're always like, well, your blood pressure was probably good because the medication was working. So,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. No, that's some really good reminders. And this thing is, yeah, I mean, when you hire experts to help you, yeah, trust their opinion. But this idea,
Mhm.
you ask questions, and like you said, that medication is really meant there to be a tool to really help you to stay healthy. And so, I really appreciate, you encouraging people to ask questions, or make note of some things that, if things are happening, make note of that so that when you go and talk
Absolutely.
to professionals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because, one medication will give you some side effects, another one gives you different ones, or you may have to take a medication for those side effects. And so it is
Yeah.
so easy to get that all confused. And then if you're feeling bad, not really knowing why you're feeling bad. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I encourage people to, to ask and, investigate and, find out what's going on.
No, that's great advice. So when you are, so say that you medication is expired, or say that you no longer need that, your doctor says, which is the best news in the world, that you no longer need that medication. So what do you recommend that they do, or do or don't do with that medication?
Well, I don't recommend sharing that with anybody.
That's, yeah,
Certainly, we're really great about, and I've done this too. You open up the cupboard and you look at your vitamins and they expired, 2 years ago or
right.
something. And, I encourage people to look at those often, look at those expiration dates and, to get rid of those things when you don't need them. And we're so lucky here in our community that we can take those to the pharmacy
Mm.
for those to be disposed of properly. Instead of just throwing them in the trash or throwing them in our sewer system, make sure that those are disposed of well. So that is really exciting that the pharmacy is doing that for us.
Yeah, some of these services that are hidden that we don't even think about, but like you said, so valuable, it gets it off, gets it out of your home, out of your medicine cabinet, off of the, make sure it's not in the street or the sewer system, or in our groundwater, which out here in Western Kansas is so valuable, and puts it in the place that we know is going to be taken care of safely, so that really it doesn't have the
Yes.
opportunity to harm anybody else.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I do also, I encourage people proper storing of your medications,
Mm.
keeping those locked away from children. Um, we don't always think about that. A lot of people will leave their medicines on their countertop or on their kitchen table or their nightstand or their end table or something. And just thinking about, am I going to have any children around? Am I going to have company where somebody could, have access to something? We hate to think about that, but you do hear lots of stories about, um, somebody's friends getting a hold of, grandpa's pain medicine or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's something that, we just need to be aware of, where can we store it safely, and keep it out of reach of children or anybody else that, doesn't need to have it. And, that does make me think about, if you put it away, out of sight, out of mind, and then you may forget to take it. So, you know, um, stick your reminders, setting a reminder on your phone, setting your watch, something
Yeah.
like that to remember to take your meds if, they're not right where you see them. So,
I have a friend who has one of those Alexas. Now, I don't need anything else talking to me, but that their Alexa reminds them to take their medication. So yeah,
exactly,
technology is
exactly.
a blessing. It can be a
Yes.
blessing and a curse at the same time. I thought it was interesting when you talked about safe storage, because I've seen a lot of people who store their medication along their windowsill, and that's
Mm-hmm,
also
mm-hmm.
the sun can damage and those kind of
Yep.
things.
Yep.
And it's
Absolutely.
amazing. One thing that, with our resist and replace group at the high school, we show them pictures of candy and medication. And sometimes, Tony, you cannot tell the difference.
Oh,
And,
absolutely. Absolutely.
and with
Yes.
children, those childproof caps, so the only people that can open those are children. And
Mm-hmm.
so you think
Yes.
about, yeah, medication and candy look a lot the same. So no, that's great advice. And it's really great to point that out. I
Yeah.
want to, I want to ask, like I said, is there anything else that we as a community need to be paying attention to, knowing that, this is something that's really important to all of us?
Like I say, just, keeping aware of what you're doing, making sure that you're using your medication properly, only for yourself, only as it's prescribed, and asking questions when you're not sure, and just, keeping yourself and those around you as safe as you can.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think that makes a big difference. And it really, like you said, it's really a tool to be used for the good, hopefully for your good, and then to keep you as healthy as possible. And I know that's not only
Yes.
your goal, but also the goal of many people's health professionals. So I did want to, first of all, I want to say thank you for the time. I know that there's a million and one things, that you could always be doing, and so I just want to say thank you. But I also just wanted to mention you were part of Pathways interview team that we were actually awarded the Pathways Grant. So I want to
Yes,
say
yes.
publicly thank you for being part of that. And I'll tell you, it was a lot of work building up to that. And over this last year, almost 6 months, 8 months, we've been doing lots of work. And I know there's some exciting things coming up. One of the things I'm really excited about is it's called HealthWorks. It's a rural leadership initiative
Mhm,
where,
mhm.
we actually learn about leadership, but also learn about health, knowing that health and leadership really go hand in hand. So what are some thoughts
Absolutely.
about that?
Yeah, I am really excited about that too, because I think, the more leaders we have out there in, related to health things,
Mhm.
that's just going to be good for everybody because, you see so and so walking or eating healthy or something like that. And it's like, oh, I could start doing some of those things. And I'm really excited to get more people out there educated to do things like that because I think that will spread, and we're getting to where people pay so much more attention
Mm,
to,
mhm.
the health of themselves. And as I get older, I can really see, a difference. My kids are so much different than I was. And, I'm so much different than my parents were. We're
Mhm,
just getting
mhm.
better and better all the time about being healthy. And it's exciting to get more people out there, leaders that, have a little bit of training on how to be a good leader and how to get other people to follow them. I think that is very exciting.
Well, it's like you talk about. A lot of people are inspired. I love Ulysses. I love the community. Fraser Park is one of my favorite places to
Hmm.
spend a lot of time. The other day, I took my grand dog out there, and she enjoyed chasing geese all the way into the water.
There
So
you
that
go.
was really fun. That was really fun having that in your car. But the thing that encourages me when I see other people is, like you said, see other people walking, other people biking, or other people, enjoying time together. And
Hmm.
so, yep. I'll tell you, there's lots of healthy foods, and there's some new stores that have opened up that with a real health focus. So, people
Yes,
are, like you said,
yes.
they're really beginning to pay attention. It's
Hmm.
not the same times that we used to live in. Plus, I think
Exactly.
nowadays we spend so much time in front of screens that
Hmm.
having that
Hmm.
release, getting outside in nature, getting some of the natural vitamin D. Now, if your doctor prescribes vitamin D, that's important, but also getting some natural vitamin D
Absolutely.
makes a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The other thing I think is really exciting, you talked about the tobacco cessation and all those kind of the programs, that I know that we were doing a resist and replace, and I know that we've had a CDRR grant, which is chronic disease risk reduction, and
Hmm.
tobacco cessation. And I know that you have lots of resources, and there's lots of resources through Impact Ulysses. But I'll tell you, so what are some tips or some things that you might encourage those people who are either trying to limit use of tobacco products or even vaping, which is something that, it's
Hmm.
not all extractive to be. We've learned a lot about vaping in these last
Hmm.
several years, but any tips that you might suggest or places that they might look for some help on that?
Just to know, the number one thing is just to know that you're not alone in doing
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
A lot of people try to, just quit something like that. Just, I'm strong, I can do it, just knowing that there is help out there.
Mm,
There are hotlines and, lots of information out there. There's support groups and, with the technology and the computers and stuff, there's a lot of access to get help to try to um, cut down and stop those things. I'm so excited in our office. When I started, we had one lady that had smoked a long, long time, and we
mhm,
had
mhm.
another that started that smoking, and they both quit. So nobody in our
Wow.
office smokes, and it's just, it's amazing. I am so proud of them for
Yep.
doing
Yep.
that. I've watched a lot of my family members struggle because of smoking, and
Mhm.
I'm so happy that that's not a part of my family right now. But some people are just brought up like that, and it continues. My parents smoke, so I smoke. And
Right.
it just
Right.
keeps going. And so knowing that you don't have to do that. There's help out there for you. um, Vaping, that is something that we're
Mm,
learning a lot about, but we still don't
right.
know all the effects that it's going to have. And it's not regulated enough. People will say, oh, it doesn't have any tobacco in it. And the thing of it, it does have tobacco, and we don't know how much it has.
Yep. Yep.
And so that's, that's a whole nother big problem. So,
Yeah, you
and I
never
think
think about chemicals, I mean, a vape pod, and I know at the
exactly.
coalition we've brought these that, principals and counselors have confiscated at the schools, even in elementary and the junior high schools.
Hmm.
But,
Hmm.
those pods contain, who knows? I mean, they know what chemicals they contain, and we can give you a list of those, but yeah, it's scary. Most people would never
Oh,
put those chemicals in their body.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So that, I think we're going to continue to see
Yeah.
more adverse effects from vaping. And I think that's why it's great to get started, in the beginning,
Yeah.
instead of having to work backwards on something like that.
We started a group called Resist, which is a statewide youth opportunity to help people get off of, stop big tobacco and stop tobacco use. But, the one thing I love about our students, when we did the Resist, we talked about that and they said, and you've really alluded to it too, you can resist something and willpower goes only so far, but when you replace it
Mhm.
with a healthy habit. So
Exactly.
if you are trying to
Exactly.
stop smoking, then hey, why don't you add walking, something to really
Hmm.
counterbalance that. And I think you've really spoken to that. But we have a resist and replace. It's R&R, not rest and relaxation, but resist and replace. And so I think that was really exciting to hear students come up with saying like, yeah, let's figure out a way to help people replace those kind of things with
Exactly.
stuff that really really is healthy habits.
Hmm. I have, do a little reading and research and stuff on eating healthy. And I've learned a little bit about habit stacking. And, it's
Oh wow,
just,
yeah.
yeah, taking out those bad habits, putting in a good one, and then just kind of stacking on top of those. And it's really, really interesting. There's a lot of good information about that.
Well, I know the two ladies who, like you said, indicated who have now, I mean, that's inspirational to a lot of people who struggle with that, yeah, like you
Hmm.
said, you're not alone. It can be done. There is help. We have a lot of people who can help you and show you the tricks and tips that they did. But I think this idea of, it's that really taking that first step. And so I'm glad there are
Absolutely.
places, not only like the health department, but, Impact Ulysses. And like you said, 800 numbers, I'll tell you, it's all over that you can actually, if you're going to research something, I'll tell you, that's something really valuable to do, researching how, ways to really get rid of that. And like you said, habit stacking. Wow. Okay,
Hmm.
sometime we're going to have to talk about that.
Yes.
That's going to be really good.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you for your partnership and Impact Ulysses. And I know that we're excited about the great work we're doing through the Pathways Grant, which is part of
Hmm.
health, which is part of that. So there are so many things upcoming. And so, Toni, have a great rest of your day. And I just wanted to say thank you again.
Okay. Thank you so much, Troy.